So let's bring tonight's special guest. Here now, Republican presidential candidate Ron Paul, Congressman from Texas. Congressman Paul, good to chat with you again. I want to start off by talking about budgets because Eamon just talked about being out of money. Paul Ryan submitting a budget. You're critical of that, even though it's coming from a prominent member of the GOP. What is your beef with Paul Ryan's budget?
Well, it's slightly better than what the Democrats are doing, and if those are the only two choices, that helps a little bit. But I'm not satisfied with it because it really doesn't cut that much. I mean, I want to balance the budget. I think spending is a problem, but I don't think that budget reflects a concern about spending because it doesn't even talk about close to balancing the budget for 30 years. It doesn't really cut any agencies of government, and it adds actually to the militarism and the military spending. And I don't think that's a sincere attempt or concern about how serious our problem is. I think we're continuing the same progress. I think this is, a lot more talk. And I think in budgets in terms of only 1 year. The first year is the only thing that counts. So they talk about, $2 or $3 trillion of cuts on proposed increases 10 years out. Why should this be pumped up as if we're really doing something? I think the crisis is much worse. I think we're in a debt crisis, and you can't solve a debt crisis by more spending and not paying attention to the debt.
Is Paul Ryan's budget DOA anyway? Because many of the critics have already latched on to the fact that two brackets of tax rates is going to significantly lower tax rates for people who are on the upper bracket, and therefore this is already being painted as a gigantic tax break for the upper class and for the wealthy.
Well, I'm for all tax breaks for everybody. So that part of the bill I would support because you need cut taxes. But it doesn't mean a whole lot if you're not serious about cutting spending. If you cut taxes and you continue the spending, then you're kidding yourself. So it's a spending problem. I think taxes are a consequence of the spending, and I don't think Republicans are very serious. I don't think the other candidates are serious. My proposal is you cut $1 trillion out of the budget the first year and balance it in 3. And they will not accept this idea that we're not the policemen of the world. But the American people have come around to this. The American people want us home from Afghanistan, these different places.
But Congressman, is Congressman Ryan's budget DOA in your view? Is it done already?
Oh. I imagine it is just because of the politics of the situation, the impossibility of making progress. As long as this country and the people endorse entitlement systems, the welfare state, and the policemen of the world, it's not a budgetary problem. It's a concept of the role of government problem, and that hasn't changed. Both Republicans and Democrats endorse, in the leadership positions, both endorse this principle that you really don't cut anything, and you just pretend to cut on several years out, and that's why we're in this crisis. So yes, they're not going to resolve this. Okay. They're going to argue and fuss about it for a long time to come.
The president in Cushing, Oklahoma, to defend his administration's handling of the Keystone Pipeline, he's saying, listen, we just needed more time. He's going to try to fast track from Cushing through your state down to Port Arthur, Texas. Do you think, though, this is just political grandstanding because the administration is getting worried that gas prices might be their biggest problem come November?
I think that's a pretty good assessment. But what bothers me most about this whole argument is, why is it that we have so much power in government and in the hands of the president? Why should one person like the president be able to say, oh, we're going to have a pipeline? No, we're not going to have a pipeline. I think that's outrageous amount of power. If you do have that power, and you have to assume that power, it should be used to enhance the marketplace and competition and allow things to progress. But to use it to boycott it and stop it for the benefit of maybe a certain group of special interests in the base of the Democratic Party, I think that's wrong. But I think there's way too much power. These kind of pipelines, we've been having pipelines in this country for hundreds of years, and they've been built before, and there wasn't so much power. I think it's this environmentalism that takes over where you can't make any progress, and then too much power falls into the hand of the president. That's where our problem is, I believe.
The Washington Post out with an article just a couple of hours ago basically citing a number of prominent Republicans saying that Rick Santorum needs to quit the presidential race. Do you agree?
I don't agree that they have any business telling who should drop out or who shouldn't. I thought this was a democracy.
Yeah, the argument, though, is that it damages the GOP's chances longer term.
How do they know that? I mean, why should they make that assumption? Maybe a good debate is what we need. Maybe we need more debate. Maybe we need this to drag out a bit so that people like myself who believe in the marketplace and sound money and the Constitution, a non-interventionist foreign policy, we need more debate. We don't need people closing us out and say, well, we got our candidate right now, and he's just sort of a modified Democrat, and therefore we have to quit this debating business. I think that's terrible that other people tell individuals to drop out of the race. I think we should have a debate and continue to debate it because we haven't solved our problems yet.
Fair enough, Congressman, but Rick Santorum basically making fun of Mitt Romney's advisors' Etch-a-Sketch comment, sort of implying, hey, you know, do we really want that type of candidate? Almost implying that if it's not he or Romney, then maybe Obama would be best left to be reelected. That's the kind of damage some are saying doesn't need to be done because they're just kind of punching each other like rock'em sock'em robots, and that it's not benefiting the GOP whatsoever. You're okay with that?
No, what right does Santorum have to be challenging Mitt Romney for flip-flopping no rent? I mean, Santorum is not exactly a conservative. Everybody looks at his voting record. I mean, he has voted for all the debt increases and increased the Department of Education, and he votes for Planned Parenthood, and then he gets right now the media pumps him up. He's the Ronald Reagan alternative to Mitt Romney. He hasn't earned the right to condemn Romney because he's not conservative enough, because he ought to be looking to his own record and explain why he's voted for so much big government. He votes for foreign aid and things like this. That doesn't mean that means he's not a conservative. He's a fake conservative.
Then in your view, is he more conservative than Romney? Because we have a guest coming up for the Tea Party later on who says that Romney is too liberal. So if you're saying that Santorum has done these things, do you think Santorum is too liberal?
No, obviously he's for too much big government. It's the definition of conservative and liberals that need a little bit of adjusting, because if you double the size of the Department of Education and it's George Bush that does it, that's called conservative. If you continue to fight wars that are undeclared, that's called conservative. If you increase military spending, that's called conservative. If you pass the Patriot Act and intrude into everybody's houses without a search warrant, that's called conservative. So I define conservative as being for limited government and personal liberties, and believe in the Constitution and a foreign policy where it's designed to defend this country and not to police the world.
Millions of people out there stuck in the middle. I completely agree with you, Congressman Ron Paul. A pleasure as always.